God is on our side. You know, during the last World War, the Germans claimed that God was their co-pilot, and the Britishers also claimed that God was their co-pilot. Both of them destroyed life and property. So we would like God to be on our side all the time and use Him. And what has come out of that is only violence. You see, belief in God or belief in anything separates us from others. The thought in its very nature can only create problems, cannot help us to solve the problem and become one with it. We don't seem to realize that it is the thought that is separating us from the totality of things. They know, see, that they can very well deal with any philosophy, any thinker, past and present, but they have some difficulty to fit me into any particular frame they know of. So they say that, you see, there is no way we can fit this man into any known cage. So what we have to do is to let the bird fly.
and I suppose that very free flying, of course, fits in perfectly with the very primitive nature of nature itself.
You know what the word religion means. I'm not
to tie down in a way.
I'm
yes.
not interested in the root meaning of the words at all, but it means to put you back to the source.
Yes.
On the other hand, it has created schisms. It is responsible for the tremendous amount of destruction of life and property. It's very unfortunate, but nevertheless the fact does remain that it has failed in its purpose.
But it's also...
But we live in hope and die in hope that somehow the very same thing that has failed us, that it is still responsible for the impossibility of creating this harmony between the humans and the life around is still there.
But in a way, though, religion is also, I mean, admittedly, it's done many destructive things, but it's also done many creative things. I mean, great art, great literature, Shakespeare himself, in a way, a coming out of a basically religious experience. Certainly that's true of the West, which is coming out of a Christian experience.
That is true. That is why when a void is created, when all the systems have failed, there is a danger or a demand, depending upon your particular fancy, the religious stuff stepping into it and trying to tell us that we have the answers for the problems. But the revolutions have failed because they also have tried to fit their systems into a value system. I'm not against the value system, but the demand to fit ourselves into the value system is the cause of man's suffering.
Where then do we go? I don't want to ask a question of what's the purpose of life, because I mean, obviously, as you're speaking, that's really not a relevant question.
No, it is a relevant question, but it's born out of the assumption that we know about life. See, nobody knows anything about life. We have only a conceptual ideations and meditations of life. And even the scientists who are trying to understand life, its origin, come up with theories, definitions of life. We really do not know anything about life. And all thought, you may not agree with me and your listeners may not accept my statement, that all our thinking is dead. It is born out of dead ideas. So the thought or the thinking mechanism trying to touch life, experience life and capture that life and give expression to that life is an impossible task. So what we are concerned about is living. The living is our relationship with our fellow beings, with the life around. And when we have everything that we can reasonably ask for, all the material comforts that you have in the West, the question naturally arises, is that all? Is that all? If the moment you pose that question to yourself, you have created a problem. If that is all, then what is the next step to take? But we are not ready. So we do not see any meaning in our life. And so we pose this question to ourselves and throw these questions at others who you think may have answers. What is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of life? It may have its own meaning, it may have its own purpose. By understanding the meaning of life and the purpose of life, we are not going to improve, change, modify, or alter our behavior patterns in any way. But there is a hope that by understanding the meaning of life, there may not be any meaning of life. If it has a meaning of life, it is already in operation there. Our wanting to understand the meaning of life seems to be a futile attempt on our parts. We go on asking the questions. Once a very old gentleman, 95-year-old gentleman, who is considered to be a great spiritual man, who taught all the time, you see, the great scriptures to his followers. He heard that I was there in the town. He came to me and asked me 2 questions. He said, what's the meaning of life? I have written hundreds of books telling people all about the meaning of life and purpose of life, quoting all the scriptures, interpreting them. I haven't understood the meaning of life. You are the one who can give the answer to me. Then I told him, look here, you are 95 years old. You haven't understood the meaning of life. When are you going to understand the meaning of life? There may not be any meaning of life. And the next question he asked me is, I have lived 95 years. I'm going to die one of these days. I want to know what will happen after death. I said, you may not live long. To know anything about death, you have to die. So are you ready to die? As long as you are asking the question, what is death? What is there after death? You are already dead. These are all dead questions. A living man would never ask those questions. You say, am I talking? Really, I'm not. You see, there is nobody who is talking. And I use this simile of a ventriloquist, you see. And he is actually carrying on the dialogue and attributes it to the dummy, or what do you call that one, whatever it is, you see. So in exactly the same way, all the questions are born out of the answers we already have. And any answer anybody gives should put an answer to the end to the questions. But it does not put an end to the questions. But we are not ready to accept the fact that all the questions are born out of the answers. If the question goes, the answers we take for granted. They also go with the question. We are not ready to throw the answers away because the sentiment comes into the picture. The tremendous investment we have and the faith we have in the teachers also is at stake. So there we are not ready to brush aside the answers. Actually, we do not want answers for the questions. And the assumption that the questions are different from the questioner is false. So if the answer goes, the questioner also goes. The questioner is nothing but the answers. The illusion is created by the mind to maintain the continuity of our identity. That's all that is there. So we can't afford to let go the identity. Whether you are asleep, awake, or dreaming, this identity is all the time there, and we do not want to let go that identity. I'm saying that it is useless or any such thing. His interest is to maintain the continuity of that. When the identity is not there, you have no way of identifying yourself with anything except through the help of knowledge. So I do accept, like anybody else in this world, the reality of the world as it is imposed on me. Otherwise, I would end up in the loony bin, singing loony tunes and merry melodies.
What would you say to the organisms striving or attempt to have some peace in their life?
Peaceful organism. I maintain that the body does not want to know anything. It does not want to learn anything. So whatever you are interested in is not in helping this living organism, but trying to resolve the problems created by that mechanism that is put in there by our culture or society.
Do you have any focus or purpose in your teaching or your dialogue?
Now we happen to be here and you are interviewing me, and my interest is to focus, spotlight, that all that you are doing to free yourself from is the one that is keeping you where you are. Any movement on your part to free yourself from something that does not exist there. I can say that there is nothing there to be free from. So it hit me like a lightning. That's the only word that I can use. That there is nothing there to be free from. It doesn't matter what you want to be free from. There is